All right. Hi, everybody. I think we are live now. So I am Marcia Civic with Be Provided Conservation Radio, and I am here today. I'm honored to have Dr. Pablo Garcia Borboroglu. I'm sorry, did I mispronounce that? And I'm so happy to have you here. He's also known as Popi, and he is the founder and president of the Global Penguin Society. It is one of the first, or the first and only international organization dedicated exclusively to the conservation of penguins and their habitats. And Poppy has spent 30 years and in the field of marine conservation for protected marine animals and areas and seabird ecology. And he has the special emphasis on penguins, which we all love. He believes strongly that improved stewardship of the ocean requires both science and communication to modify people's attitudes and behavior. And he has been a scientific advisor to a number of areas such as Paramount Pictures, the Swedish and German national television channels, Tokyo Broadcasting System, Disney and BBC, and the Irish International Press, just to name a few. And you know, you've been busy these 30 years. You've helped create the IUCN Penguin Specialist Group and the designation of the largest UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in Argentina, which I believe is Patagonia Azul, correct? And
Right.
yeah, and the creation of the Punta Tambo MPA. And but wait, that's not all. You have received the Pew Fellowship in Marine Conservation in 2009 and the Whitley Gold Award in 2019 and the National Geographic Buffett Award in 2018 and the Rolex Award for Enterprise in 2019 and the honor recognition by the Congress of Argentina. So I feel honored. I'm sitting here with a celebrity today. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Marcia. No, it's such a pleasure for me to be talking to you and also to share what we do for penguin conservation with all your amazing audience. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you. And like I mentioned before, I hope that if you are listening, people, you can leave comments and questions and we will get to answering them. But yeah, I'm so glad you're here today. So how are things in Argentina right now? How are you doing?
So I'm talking to you from my city where I live. The name is Puerto Madryn. It is on the Atlantic side of Argentina, of course, and in the Atlantic side of Patagonia, I mean. So it's almost the end of the planet.
Nice.
So if you look at the map, this is near the southern extreme of South America. So the next stop is Antarctica, more or less.
Oh, okay.
We're going into the winter now. Well, so not like you, we envy you now. So we're having cold temperatures now. In this very moment, we're having a very strong storm coming from the south, from Antarctica, which is very, very cold and rainy.
Yeah, I can hear the rain actually. So yeah, nice. So have you been in quarantine? How are things with the pandemic down there? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, so the things, it's almost, we are in quarantine days 86 now.
Okay.
Because we started full lockdown even before we have cases. Now most of the cases are in Buenos Aires, our capital city.
Right.
But not in my region. We don't have a case here in the city, but still all the activities are limited. We are allowed to recreate, to go to a beach in the south. It's a very big beach, so you don't see people, and but that's good. That's good. I've been there this morning, and I go there because there are once in a while I get to see some penguins. They are not breeding, but they are migrating. So I've been lucky to get a couple of them swimming.
Oh, fun. I know how lucky you are to be right there. Perfect. So I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad I've been seeing your pictures of the beach on Instagram. It looks beautiful there.
Yes.
So I can't wait to get there. Um, I've heard many of your talks through WCN, and I heard from your talks that your grandmother was a big inspiration to you with penguins, and I was wondering if you could share, like, how did she inspire you, and can you share some stories that she shared with you that got you so inspired?
Yes, so the nice story is that my grandmother, she got married with my grandfather. My grandfather was Greek.
Mm-hmm.
He came from Greece in 1920, so they both came to live here in Patagonia, imagine 100 years ago. And she used to go to the coasts of Patagonia with horses, I imagine, wagons, to visit the penguins. She loved nature.
Yeah.
In those years, they were harvesting sea lions and elephant seals here to make oil. So ecotourism was not a concept.
Yeah, yeah.
Developed a handle, but still she would enjoy the penguins.
Yeah.
And when I was born, I was 2 years old maybe, and she was telling me the stories of her visits,
Yeah.
about the devotion of the adults to feed the chicks and to take care of the nests, to find a partner, that they were nesting under the bushes or in caves and going into the ocean.
Yeah.
So the imagination of a boy like me, that was really amazing. That
Yeah.
was very remote to me. But I think that was critical to kind of plant the seed of the respect for nature. And I think that had a lot to do with my life, because I decided to dedicate my life to protect penguins. And I think that she was very critical. She was instrumental to make me make that decision, right?
Yeah.
I have a picture that I show. Maybe you've seen that in some of the presentations of a group of women visiting the penguins with long old dresses.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very strange. But that's great to illustrate how strange it was to have a women visiting penguins in Patagonia,
Right.
like a century ago.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I've seen that picture. I think you've shown it, or I've seen it in your book, but
Yes.
So she was a very adventurous kind of. It sounds like a scientific mind to observe the penguins, and you inherited a lot of that. That's amazing. So.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, I think she had a love for nature, and she was very curious. She never, I mean, she had a limited education. She was born in one of ranch in the center of Argentina. Yeah. She couldn't finish she finished the first degree of primary school.
Wow.
But she still managed to learn to write and to read. And she was self-educated woman.
Yeah.
She knew how to make progress in life. And I think I learned a lot from her, not only the love for nature, but the desire to thrive and make progress in life.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, what a good story. And you didn't see your first penguin until you were a little bit older, correct? So how old were you when you saw your first penguin?
So that was because I always tell that I had like a very strong connection. Mm-hmm. Like the first time I kind of visited a big penguin colony. Yeah. Because sometimes maybe I had the chance to see a penguin isolated on the coast, but I was 19 when I visited a big penguin colony, and that was really, really special because I had like a connection. Like I realized I had to do something to help penguins.
Yeah.
Particularly because I was motivated by the fact that in the 80s, here in this province where I am right now, oil spills were a big threat, and 40,000 penguins died per year due to the oil spills.
Wow!
So it was very, shocking, right?
Wow.
Because it was very normal you would go to the beach and find many oil penguins dead or dying, but that was the normal. People was used to that, and even politicians didn't recognize that was an issue. Right. And I was shocked by that fact, and combined with a visit to the penguin colony, I kind of decided to study biology. Mm-hmm. Because before I was studying laws. I studied
You
law to be a
were.
lawyer.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
for
I
two
didn't know
years.
that. Yeah, yeah. What a switch.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Because I wanted to be an ambassador,
Mm-hmm.
a diplomat. So I studied languages and laws. But then I realized that I couldn't become a lawyer. I didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
So I switched. And then the other factor was that there was a big oil spill here, and in 2 months, almost 17,000 penguins died
Oh no.
due to the oil spill. So by then I was studying at the university. So with a group of friends and colleagues from the university, we set up a rehabilitation center in that same colony that I
Nice.
visited.
Nice.
Yes, and that was very important, not only to kind of course, rehabilitate the animals, but because we attract the attention of the media, and the media allow us to share the problem and increase the visibility of the oil pollution problem.
Mm-hmm.
And all the media from Buenos Aires came to Patagonia, to the south.
Yeah.
There were paved roads. I mean, it was very unusual to have these massive media channels in Patagonia. And that helped because 7 years later, the oil tanker lanes were moved further offshore. And that really helped to reduce the impact of oil mortality. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, combined with the new technology to avoid oil spills, now from those 40,000 penguins that died in the 80s, now we don't have more than 20 or 50 oil penguins dead per year.
Oh
So that
wow.
was this is a great conservation
Mm-hmm.
story.
Yeah. It is. It is. So you and a group of friends just started rehabilitating some of these penguins. Did you have any experience doing this before? Or you just all were passionate about it, wanted to jump in and do that?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
in the meantime, before the big oil spills, I used to collect the penguins from the beach, isolated penguins from the beach, and I used to
Okay.
take them to a small rehabilitation center that I set up in one farm.
Okay.
And in those times, I kind of asked for help to other organizations in the United States, in South Africa, that they develop like rehabilitation manuals, like
Yeah.
guidelines.
Okay.
And when the big oil spill hit, we also asked for help, and also international groups came here. But you know what, Marcia? I also learned that it was important to wash the penguins, but it was not the solution, because it's wrong to kind of perceive that penguins are washable, or wildlife
Oh,
is washable. So you wash them and you rehabilitate them, and that's fine. And that's not the solution. The solution is to stop oil spills,
you're right.
stop those accidents. So
Yeah.
the critical thing is that all these actions help to, as I said, increase the visibility of the problem, engage the international community and also the politicians, and that catalyzed the change that I described before.
That's great. Well, good job. And so this was the creation of the Global Penguin Society, or how long afterwards did you create that?
Yeah, so that was like, this big oil spill was in 91, so like
Oh,
30 years ago,
oh,
more or less. Yes,
okay.
29 years
A,
ago.
a big
So then
difference.
I continued my studies in the university, because I knew that to help penguins, I needed to educate myself
Yeah,
and get studies
yeah,
to be able to be more useful. Because sometimes we want things to happen, but we need to have tools to
right.
help them better. So I went to the university, and I kind of pursue more like an academic career. So I was always interested in conservation, but I became a researcher. And at some point, everything was fine. I liked that, and I published things. But at some point, I realized that in countries where most penguins occur, developing countries, like Argentina, for example,
Mm-hmm.
in the research system, ask you to publish in English in research magazines. Here, people don't read English.
Right.
Even the public administrations, they don't read papers, not even in Spanish. So that information is good for a researcher, but it's useless most of the times,
Right.
because it's not available. So I decided to create an organization that could use that information, catalyze conservation action, and also make the science available not only for decision makers, but also for communities, because
Right.
communities are very important to support actions like the creation of the marine protected areas that you named at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Right. Right. Well, good job. So I have a couple hellos, if that's okay. So Josanne says hi from Monterey, California. Tracy from Michigan. Jacqueline Deely. Hi, Jackie. And she's glad. and
Hello.
and Tess Rabitsko from CCF. I don't know if you remember Tess. And she said,
Yes.
"Thank you so much for all the great work you do, Pablo." So, and
No,
and I have a
thank you
question.
for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, a number of listeners, so that's great. And I do have a question about penguins from Josanne, but I'm going to hold off till we start talking about the different species of penguins. Is that all right? And Josanne will get there. So
Perfect.
so you started GPS, or the Global Penguin Society. What was it? 2010. So you're in 10 years probably right now. Or was it 2010 you started? Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly. It was 2009, so more or less, yeah. Last year we celebrated our 10th anniversary,
oh, great.
and it was fantastic. Yeah, it was just an idea whose time has come, because the moment we created it, we started to receive like needs. There were a
Yeah.
lot of needs, because what happens also is that normally we tend to believe that everything was discovered, everything was created, that there are no new ideas. And then when you scratch under the surface, you realize that there are so many things that need to be done, still
Right.
to be done.
All the
And
unknowns.
it, yeah, and with GPS, we made a combination of science that, because we do three things: research to generate knowledge, to discover what are the problems and what are the penguin needs, and also to catalyze the action. And with that information, we, for example, create marine protected areas, also protection on land. We do management plans for penguin colonies that are open for visits, like ecotourism. So we
Great.
reduce the impact on the species and on the habitats, but also we increase the experience, we improve the experience of the visitor. So everybody's happy. And we also have a big educational program, not only for local kids and communities, but also globally, because we're going to discuss this, I'm sure, later.
Yeah.
Penguins, they open the room to discuss issues that we don't like a lot, like climate change, pollution,
Yeah.
fisheries, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, we're going to get in and probably when we start talking about some of the challenges of them. And I'm going to put a map up that shows the areas where penguins are. They're not, many people think of penguins just being down in your area, right? But they're in many areas. So I have a map up, and I believe all these areas, is it the dark blue areas where penguins are? Is this the
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
So because penguins only occur in the southern hemisphere. So you have penguin colonies, of course, in Antarctica, which is like the center of the penguin world is Antarctica. From the penguin's perspective, the Antarctica is in the middle, and then they occupy, for example, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and also the southern part of South America, but also we have tropical penguins in Ecuador, in Galapagos.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
have penguins in Ecuador, in Peru, in Chile, in Argentina, and in the surrounding islands and subantarctic islands. And we don't have penguins in the northern hemisphere. And there is a theory that says that it is because in the northern hemisphere there were more carnivore predators. So a bird that didn't fly couldn't thrive, couldn't survive in an environment with predators. So they evolved in predator-free islands and areas, like New Zealand, for example.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I was surprised about the New Zealand penguins, actually, when I read your book. And I should mention you co-authored, I'll show it, co-authored this book. Oops. Can everybody see it? If I show it right. And yeah, they actually, do they breed, I believe, in the forest in New Zealand? Or
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes, those are very strange animals. I love New Zealand. I think New Zealand is like the penguin country by definition because they have 7 species of penguins. Some of them only occur in New Zealand.
Wow.
But this is surprising. We made a political analysis to see which country is the country that has more number of penguin species under their jurisdiction. And it is a surprise to know that it is Great Britain, England,
Really?
because they have a lot of because they have a lot of overseas territories. So when you make the list, you see that 9 species. Not all. What I mean is not all the population of one species, but animals of 9 species occur under their jurisdiction. And then we have New Zealand that they all occur within New Zealand area.
Yeah.
But yes, in New Zealand, we have penguins breeding in the middle of the forest because we work with them.
Mm-hmm.
That species is called Fiordland crested penguin. The local name, the Maori name, is Tawaki penguin.
Oh.
It's in Marcia because you can hardly find them. They nest on steep slopes in the mountains, and they nest under logs or trees, so it's very hard to find them.
Oh, incredible.
And to work with them as well.
Yeah.
But the landscapes are amazing.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, and yeah, I guess my point with showing all the different areas too and talking about this is that they're so global, and it's great that you're able to work with this internationally. So how many species of penguins are there total?
So right now, there are 18 species of penguins. It depends on the genetic analysis and the last genetic paper. So we go from 17 to 20, depends.
Oh, okay.
Now there are more research groups studying them. So some of people say there are 20, but we need, there's always instability. And right now we manage 18, and then we'll see.
Yeah.
Sometimes we wait a couple of years for other research papers to appear and decide if that is really a separated species. But we say that there are 18 species of penguins.
Okay.
Most people think that penguins live in Antarctica, right? And that they love the ice. And so they are surprised when they learn that that's not the case. There are only 4 species of penguins that kind of literally live in Antarctic and subantarctic areas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the rest of them, they don't like the ice, they don't like the cold, more or less. And they live, as we said, in temperate places, and even at the tropical penguin, which is in the Galapagos Island. So they occupy a wide variety of habitats, from the deserts in Patagonia, the deserts in the coast of Peru, for example. Mm-hmm. Of course, in some places they nest and they build nests or caves, burrows under the ground.
I didn't know that.
But yes, because their main, a good nest is a nest that provides cover from predators, mm-hmm. but also from sun exposure for their chicks. Because in the summer, in some areas it could get very hot, very warm.
Right. Interesting. Well, since we're talking about the species of penguins, Josanne asks, what is the difference between African and Argentina's penguins? Is there...
Excellent.
Yeah.
So that group of penguins, it's a different group. So we have the Antarctic species, which are like 4. Then we have like other species that are called crested, because they have these nice feathers, colorful feathers that are yellow or orange with red eyes and orange amazing red bills. They're so cool. Fantastic. They look like aliens. And then we have the group that she's mentioning.
Yeah.
Which is formed like there are like 4 species that are more related. One is the African, the Magellanic penguin here in Argentina and Chile, the Humboldt penguin in Peru, and the Galapagos penguin. Okay. So we could say that they are kind of cousins, more or less.
Yeah.
They are very similar because they are black and white. They have different differences in the number of bands in the chest. Like the Magellanic penguin has 2 black bands. Mm-hmm. The African has only 1. But you know what? Those species are not they're kind of new species, we could say. Oh. For example, the Humboldt penguin and the Magellanics, there is an area in Chile where both species overlap. and
Okay.
they also breed.
Oh,
So
they
you
can
can
breed
have
together.
yes, so
Okay.
you can have hybrids of both species. That means that the process of the differentiation of the species is not completely
Yeah.
finished, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that I can see the difficulty in figuring out the numbers then with hybrids, but I
Yes,
I don't know
yes.
if you can see it. I'll show a picture. I have a picture of various species. I don't know if you can see it on your browser. I think, can you see that, Pablo?
Not right now.
Oh,
Let me
okay.
see.
It might be a delay, but yeah, I show a picture of the crested with a red beak and kind of a funky hairdo. And
Ah, yes.
yeah,
That is a northern rock hopper penguin.
okay,
They only live in the Tristan da Cunha. That's a main area where they breed in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean.
okay.
I think it is the most remote island on the planet because like 10 years ago, I think there was an oil spill, and it took like 10 years by boat to get there from Africa, which is the nearest
Wow,
part.
wow.
But yeah, they are amazing. The crests are incredible. Like,
Yeah.
and for example, we thought before that there was only one rock hopper penguin, but then the analysis were made, and we knew that there are two: the northern and the southern rock hopper penguin. And
Oh,
the southern lives here in Patagonia, and also in other parts of the subantarctic areas.
oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'm sorry you can't see this picture and kind of explain some of the other ones, but we can do that later. And then I have a graphic I'm showing now that has all the species of penguins with circles on it with red, orange, yellow, and green. I think it's showing the number of threatened or how the ones that are threatened. And that's a question Jackie had too. Which species is declining and which might be increasing and why? So,
Yeah, so the image that you are describing,
mm-hmm.
it includes all the penguin species, the 18, and each button represents the conservation status according to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. And it is showing that over half of the 18 species are considered threatened by that organization.
Yeah.
So we have, at this very moment, we have 5 species that are considered endangered, including the African, for example, or the yellow-eyed penguin in New Zealand.
Okay.
Then we have 5 other species that are called like orange, yeah?
Yeah.
And they are vulnerable. They are vulnerable species. We have 3 that are considered near threatened,
Okay.
which is the yellow button. That includes the emperor penguin, which is the tallest. That is the most famous penguin species
Yeah.
because that one has been featured in a lot of cartoons
Yeah.
and documentary films like the March of the Penguins
Mm-hmm.
or Happy Feet. And then we have other 5 species that are considered least concern. Least concern, there's always confusion. It doesn't mean that we don't need to care about them. It means that their conservation is of less concern than others. But we still have to make conservation action for them, you know?
Right. Right.
Normally, if you look at the trend of how do the penguins distribute on the planet according to their conservation status, you will see that the penguins that live in Antarctica, they tend to have larger populations, and they tend to be less concerned. And basically, it is because they live far away from people.
Yeah.
We are the problems.
Yeah.
So we
Unfortunately.
need problems. Yeah, so that, of course, Antarctica, due to the logistical and the weather conditions, people don't live there. There are not developments. It is managed in a way so far that there are not a lot of threats like in South America, for example.
Interesting. Okay. And so there's least concerned. Are any populations increasing? Jackie also asked. And
Excellent.
yeah.
Great questions, Jackie.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Jackie. So I want to say something about Jackie because Jackie is an amazing photographer, and she's been very generous because she gave us the possibility to use her images to illustrate our work. And it's amazing. She's such an artist. So thank you very much. And
Yes.
thank you for this question, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.
So the thing is like, yes, sometimes you have the same species that is doing okay in one area, but not doing okay in other area. For example, the king penguin. The king penguin is really having a hard time in the South Indian Ocean because the food is moving away from colonies.
Okay.
But here in South America, the king penguin is recolonizing places where they've been wiped out 100 years ago, because 100 years ago they started to make penguin oil here. They boiled all the penguins.
Oh, yeah.
The colonies disappeared.
Yeah.
And those penguins are coming back to some of those colonies. So they are doing okay here. But you know what, Marcia? If you look at all the penguins, there is one penguin species that is called the Gentoo penguin.
Oh.
And that is considered the winner of climate change, because it is a penguin that is very flexible in their features. And when the environmental conditions change, they can adapt quickly, physiologically. For example, if the ice or the snow melts quickly in some areas around Antarctica, they cannot get quickly prepared. They start nesting, and they start occupying those habitats that are closer to the food, and they are better. So they outcompete other species.
Nice.
And the other key thing, the other key thing is that most of the penguins, when the chicks are big enough, they get independent. So the adults leave the chicks on the colony. So they have to be on their own. They have to start looking for food in the ocean for the first time. But not the Gentoo penguin. The Gentoo adults, they go with the chicks. They fish with the chicks together with the fish. They show the chicks where the food is and how to get it.
Nice.
So then after that, they abandon them. So that increases their survival and their chances of thriving. So the colonies of the Gentoo penguins are increasing, and there are new colonies in some specific areas. So that is a smart penguin.
That is. I didn't realize that. So I didn't realize they're one of the only ones that do that with their young and teach them. Interesting. Yeah.
That's incredible. And some species, it's like due to the evolution, because when we talk about evolution, we have to talk about millions of years, right?
Yeah.
It's not something that happens overnight. And that is one of the problems, because with all the pressure, with all the new threats that we are creating for the penguins, they're not being, and all the wildlife, they're not being able to adapt quick enough, because the biological and evolutionary times, it's in terms of millions of years. So some species they have like a fixed template, and even if the conditions change, they cannot change that.
Yeah.
I mean, they have, if the ice, for example, melts, or if there is habitat available, it takes longer for them to get used to be prepared to start the breeding season.
Yeah. Wow. So let's talk about threats to penguins. And I know you said we're one of the biggest threats, but how are they doing with climate change? Is that one of the biggest threats that penguins are facing right now? Yeah.
Yeah, there are two issues with the penguins that are important. One thing is that penguins live in the ocean, but also live on land. So it's not like a dolphin. A dolphin, they live only in the ocean, so they are facing threats in the ocean. So penguins, they accumulate threats in both environments, and that is a big problem for them. The other thing is that penguins, they have some characteristics that make them more vulnerable compared to other species. They don't fly. They only lay 1 or 2 eggs. Some species, they take like 15 months to raise one chick, like the king penguin. And of course, they get together in colonies. So when they are breeding, so you find them all nesting side by side. But that can be a problem. For example, if there is an oil spill,
Right.
because if the oil hits the coast, and this happened in South Africa a couple of times. So due to all this characteristic, they are more vulnerable. And of course, they are more sensitive to all the alterations in the ocean and on land. And one of the threats that you mentioned, the climate change, is one of the main threats they are facing. Basically, we would say that in the ocean, they're affected by climate change, oil pollution. It used to be oil spills. Now it's becoming more like plastic pollution is becoming a concerning issue.
Yeah.
And also the mismanagement of fisheries. But then when penguins come on land, they are affected by human disturbance. People that they are reckless, they don't care about penguins, they take them for granted, and also the introduction of predators,
Yeah.
like we described at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, and pets probably too. People with dogs on beaches and such, and cats, and
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
exactly,
Wow.
exactly. And in terms of climate change that you ask, we also think that it's also mostly affecting Antarctic penguins. Climate change basically changes the timing, the pattern of ice formation and melting, and
Right,
that affects the quality of the habitat that penguins need, not only to breed and to nest, but also to find food.
right.
But climate change is doing much more than that, because it is changing the availability of food in all the ocean. So imagine that you are a penguin. You have your own chicks. You cannot fly. So you have to walk all the way from your nest to the coast and then swim hundreds of kilometers to get the food.
Yeah,
Get the food, come back, walk again, and feed your chicks. Normally, under the moment when your chicks are born,
yeah.
it matches the moment when there is food available close to
Abundant.
the colony. Climate change is modifying that. So you have your chicks in your nest, you go to the ocean, the food is no there, it's no longer there.
Yeah,
So you have to continue swimming more 100 kilometers. It takes you longer, and many times when you come back, it's late because your chicks starve to death, or
yeah.
maybe you're not able to feed them enough, and that is causing the decline of several populations of penguins. But
Sad.
Marcia, we are finding evidence now that climate change is also, of course, we know, changing the weather.
Right.
So in some regions there are more rainfalls, more severe storms that are killing penguins when they are small and they are not yet waterproof. So they get wet, they lose temperature, and they die from hypothermia. And now we are also keeping track of the heat waves,
Wow.
because the penguins are adapted to keep their body temperature, inside. So they have all these feathers, so the heat doesn't come out. But when you have a heat wave, that is really a lethal thing. So
Yeah.
when they reach a lethal temperatures, and that is the only moment when they abandon the nest. Like last year, in one of the colonies where I am here, we recorded 44 degrees centigrades,
Wow.
which is, I don't know in Fahrenheit. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, I think yeah,
But
definitely above 90s or in the 90s. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we found at least 250 penguins died on their way
Oh.
from the nest to the ocean, trying to go, because they go to the ocean to refresh themselves. But if you are a penguin, you are 50 centimeters tall,
Yeah.
and it's very hot, almost no oxygen, so they die from heart attacks on their way.
Oh
So
my
that's a new
gosh.
concern.
That's terrible. Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering about that. So yeah, climate change is a hard challenge to overcome. Like you said, it's their instincts are built in.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah. So in general, of course, we know, and we all conservationists, we recognize that it's not a problem that we can solve quick in the short term. But what we can do is reduce the pressure that we put on species with the activities that we create and we can manage: oil pollution, fisheries,
right.
introduction of predators, human disturbance. If we behave better, we give animals the chance to be more resilient and cope better with the new threats that climate change is creating.
That's good. That's good. Well, speaking of that, can we talk about the fifth anniversary of Patagonia Azul, your reserve?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
we'll
for
move.
that.
Yeah, we'll move on to the success stories of what's going on. So yeah, tell us more about that project and what's going on with that. So happy anniversary with that. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're
So
welcome.
yeah, this year we are celebrating the fifth anniversary of the creation of the Patagonia Azul, which means blue Patagonia Biosphere Reserve.
I'll show a
It is.
picture of
It
it.
is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
great,
Yeah.
amazing. So the UNESCO, you submit this proposal to UNESCO. So we work with all the authorities in the town halls, in the province, and also at national governments, and we created we elaborated all the paperwork, which was a lot, like 1,200 pages of document. We submitted that to UNESCO Paris, and basically when you propose something that UNESCO tells, when UNESCO decides to name a place in the planet like a biosphere reserve, it means that it has special characteristics above all the rest of the planet.
Yeah.
So in this area, the thing is that, of course, we use the face of the penguin to convince decision makers about the need to create this.
Yeah.
The area...
you can't resist a penguin. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I didn't mean to interrupt, yeah.
but again, this is one of the good things about the penguins, because it's not only about the penguins. You know, the penguins, people have a natural connection to them, so they open the opportunity to protect many other species. So the Patagonia Sur Biosphere Reserve, it includes 20 penguin colonies, 40% of the population of the Magellanic penguins, but it also protects other 700 species of marine and terrestrial animals. And we started it is called Blue because originally it was going to be exclusively a marine area. But then when we started scoping and gathering information, the coastal area was so rich and it has had so many conservation values that we included 40% of the biosphere reserve. It's on land. And you know what? It has the size of Maryland, more or less. It has almost 8 million acres. It's like Belgium, approximately.
That's great.
And it's the largest one of this kind in Argentina. And of course, it catalyzed, and it did, the creation of other reserves within this huge biosphere reserve. So, and I love these things because those are the things that we can do, and you say this is going to last after we die. This is like a big legacy, you know.
That's great.
For the next generation, and it's going to limit like developments that are not sustainable. You know? And that was very important.
That's big.
Specifically, the concept of a biosphere reserve is not to exclude people, but to include people in a way that we can coexist with wildlife.
Okay.
That's the basics.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so are you allowing ecotourism opportunity within this area? Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. And one of the benefits, it's also the international promotion. But the thing is, like, to be prepared, to have these areas prepared before an ecotouristic operation is in place, you know? So if it's a reserve before, you can secure the conditions, as I said at the beginning, so that people enjoy and animals and environments are not impacted.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a number of animals within. I was surprised all the animals within this reserve. You have puma, some other
we have
birds rare birds and other
Yeah, we have like over 65 species of terrestrial birds, 35 species of marine mammals, the other like 40 species of terrestrial mammals, and of course a lot of invertebrates. And you know, many some of these areas are quite unexplored, you know. But also, you know, that was interesting because it was a combination. It was not only biological information that we needed to gather. We gathered a lot of cultural information in terms of the values of the people that live there, and also historical. There are a lot of places that were used by the Indians in the area, and there are also a lot of historical historical shipwrecks. You know? Because before the Panama Channel was created, all the ships, all the expeditions from Europe came through Patagonia, like Darwin, Magellan, all of them. They had to. And this is the weather is really. It's called the Roaring Forties. It's very windy, very dangerous. So we have a lot of historical shipwrecks. So culturally, it is very important as well.
That's great. Well, congratulations on that. I was excited to read that and to see pictures of that. So, and what is Punta Tambo? What is that? Is that another reserve or area? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Punta Tambo, it's for a long time, until a couple of years, was the largest Magellanic penguin colony on the planet. It is still, I mean, it is huge. It's a main touristic destination in Argentina.
Okay.
It is amazing. It is a big colony. It has 400 hectares. It's like a penguin city.
I guess so.
And but now with all the changes in the ocean, 3 years ago we surveyed all the colonies, and there is a colony in the north of this province that is now the largest, because there are conditions in the oceans are changing and the penguins are moving to the north. But still, Punta Tombo is an amazing destination. The population there is about 300,000 adults breeding, which is a lot. I mean,
that is a lot.
A lot of penguins.
That'd be fun.
These places are really great, because particularly the Magellanic penguin, they can habituate, they get habituated to people. So if you manage the colonies in a way that is correct, and if people behave and follow rules, penguins realize that they are safe and they get used to people. They get used to people as long as if people respect the limits, the fences, for example. So you can walk through the colony. You will see penguins that are taking naps. They don't even wake up. They don't care about you because they're people. People can enjoy. Penguins can enjoy, and that cannot do the same thing with all the species. Some species are very shy. Some species, they would abandon the chicks and the nests. You cannot get closer to 200 meters. Like the yellow-eyed penguin in New Zealand is a very shy bird. You have to respect the rules. So every species has different characteristics, right? And of course, so Punta Tombo, like 40 years ago, the protected areas were only created here where people were watching wildlife. So like if you could go to see elephant seals or sea lions, and the protection was only on land. And these animals, they need a place to eat. So with all the science that appeared later, we realized that we needed to protect the ocean. And then in the last 10 years, I would say, more attention is being paid or given to creation of marine protected areas. And thanks to the Biosphere Reserve, that helped us create also the Punta Tombo Marine Protected Area to protect the place where those penguins are eating. Because Punta Tombo is declining, the population is declining. So, of course, there was a need to secure conditions in the ocean where they eat.
Oh, interesting. Well, good. You're doing all these great things for the penguins. I have a question from Jackie again, and she asks, is increased tourism to Antarctica and other remote locations having a negative or positive impact, or possibly a combination of both? And what can we do about that?
I would go about the combination of both. And again, like in life, it's not always yes or no, it's how you do things. So of course there is a concern, and there's been a concern for some time, because the number, I got like between 65 and 80,000 people are visiting Antarctica per year. Of course the tourism is responsible. Normally the people that go there, they have a particular feeling about wildlife. They go there because they really want to respect. But still, one of the concerns is that you have a lot of cruise boats. So you have a lot of oil floating there. So the risk of an oil spill is increased by the number of ships that you have floating in there. Of course, there could be things related with pollution. I think that there might be a way to limit the things, to limit the not only in Antarctica, in many destinations. You have places that are open, and you realize that it's like a soccer, like a football team, like lots of people, and you don't want to see people. You are visiting those places because it is supposed to be pristine. In Antarctica, of course, all the tour operators, they coordinate, so people go there and they feel they are the first person visiting those places. You don't see other people. Because that's also part of the attraction. But I think that there should be some, of course, there should be guidelines, and they should be respected. On the other side, a responsible tourism is the main ally, the main friend of conservation. But it has to be responsible, and it has to be an educational experience. and you are not supposed to be harming the destination that you're visiting. So that is something that is really good when you are going to visit a place, to make sure that it is managed correctly. Read the how you say, travel guides, the comments. So because people say you don't want to visit a place, and then when you go there, you realize that you are the problem.
Right, right, yeah, and we have.
So we also like.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, like when you eat or when you consume, we also need like a responsible visitors, responsible tourists.
Exactly. I was just going to say we're notorious for loving nature to death. Even here in our parks in California, people want to be outside. They want to do this and that, but eventually you're going to get, if you're not responsible, there's going to be too many people, too many things you're doing. Yeah. So that makes sense. Back to your comment on penguins being adaptable to humans. You mentioned that. I was, you see these beautiful films like Penguins that just came out, and were you an advisor for Penguins, by the way? Did you advise on that?
So in that case, you listen? Can you listen to me?
Yep. You froze for a second. Yep.
Okay.
You're good now. Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, that was a movie created by Disney Nature to celebrate their 10th anniversary. And every time they launch a movie, they select one organization to support the conservation activities. Okay. And so last year, we were very honored to be selected and to be part of the promotion tour and the launching of the movie. We were not doing the creation of the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it took 3 years, and they filmed in Antarctica.
Wow.
But of course, the information is really accurate there. And it is also interesting that one of the things that I highlight of that movie is that I decided to be a conservationist because my grandmother told me the story about penguins.
Yeah.
And now, these kind of products, they are telling the story about penguins to millions of kids that can become conservationists.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't need to be a biologist to work in conservation. You can be a lawyer, you can be a bookkeeper. We all have a role in conservation.
Yeah.
And these movies, they shape it in a way that is not, you don't need to be a researcher, to learn about penguins. And there are a lot of things that all of us can do to help penguins and all the wildlife.
Yeah, I love that film. And I guess those cameramen and the film crew had to get really right up into these colonies. And I was amazed the penguins acted like they weren't even there. So it was like, it was pretty amazing, the photography and all that. I fell in love with Steve the penguin for sure. So.
Yeah, and also, they stay in the winter. I mean, the conditions of the crew were incredible. One of the directors, he lost, how you say in English, the big toe of the feet.
Oh, yeah.
Filming that movie.
Oh, my gosh.
Because of that movie. Yeah. Because it's very dangerous. Antarctica could be very dangerous. And with all the wind and but the footage is absolutely amazing. And it was done by the same production, the producers, that they made all the Planet, Ocean Planet, Blue Planet, Planet Earth. They work with David Attenborough. They are from Bristol, and they work with BBC. They are amazing people. Amazing professionals.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, that was amazing footage. They're in there with the killer whales and orcas, and it was just like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But yeah, I love that.
Yeah. But it's incredible because it really connects the audience with Antarctica and the penguins. You are there for an hour.
Exactly.
And then it's about when you learn something, then you want to, as there's this common saying, you need to learn, and then you love what you learn about. And this is the thing about the penguins. And the key thing about penguins that we were mentioning through our talk is that people have this natural emotional connection with penguins. Mm-hmm. So penguins can be the perfect tool to inspire the decision makers, politicians, the international community, entrepreneurs. And when people care about something, then that catalyzes political support. And with political support, then you can create laws,
Mm-hmm.
you can pass laws, you can create protected areas, biosphere reserves. So all the political decisions are supported by the desire of the people in general.
Yeah, yeah,
In general.
yeah.
But
And it's good to address
in
the younger generation like that. They get attracted to Steve and his family, and personalize following his life through, and the
yes,
struggles they have. Yeah, it makes you fall in
and
love
we
with
are
them.
talking
Yeah.
and we are talking about hundreds of millions. There used to be a game called Club Penguin.
Mm.
It doesn't exist anymore now. It was run by Disney like 10 years ago.
Oh, I know.
And there were literally 100 million kids playing online that game. So, and that was really an opportunity to share the message about what the penguins need. What can you do for penguins, for wildlife, for everything that motivates you? It could be the water, it could be the air, it could be a cheetah, it could be anything.
Exactly.
But penguins, I like penguins because they also offer the opportunities to open discussions about topics that are difficult. This climate change, fisheries, the things that we've been discussing. But again, it's not only about penguins. The action we're doing, we're protecting so many species we don't know enough about, or maybe people are not so much connected as they are with penguins.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, saving them is saving a lot of different things that we may not even know about. So that's amazing. So, and I know you spend a lot of time locally as well in the communities with educating children and working with them, and I think that's great as well. What?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I was going to say what?
No. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I know there's a little delay. I apologize. I know we're coming up on an hour or two, but I have all these questions. But anyways, so I was just curious, what projects are you working on now with the Global Penguin Society?
Great.
Yeah.
So right now we are doing an activity book, which is going to be digital. Of course, we were developing digital material before the pandemic.
Yeah.
That was good. But now we're going to develop like a book that is going to be distributed for free in English and in Spanish. Yeah. In PDF and also printed material. So we are working with one of the designers from Disney, So we are and we are also working on an institutional booklet to show people all the things that we are doing, and so we can celebrate. But we are also working on protected areas. Like 10 years ago, we discovered a colony that was just starting. There were 6 pairs of penguins, but the place was really a mess. People were throwing garbage, harming the penguins. So we protected that colony for 10 years, and now it's got 2,600 pairs.
Wow.
It is thriving.
I guess so.
Yes, and with all the information we've been gathering in science, we are working to design a protected area in the ocean and on land, a bigger protected area. Just a small touristic operation that we helped set up is giving at least 12 jobs for local people, and it's generating a lot of income.
That's
so
great.
Our kind of circle is we get the science to make conservation and educate people and also benefit them economically, so they sustain research and conservation and education, and then it's a wheel.
Yeah.
So everybody wins, and we're all happy.
Oh, that's terrific. And are you seeing some of these young kids that you're teaching over the years, like going on to science and wanting to do what you do in conservation with either penguins or other animals? Yeah.
So one of the things that we realized is that only a small proportion of the kids that were living close to the penguins knew them, have visited their colonies. I would say like 15 to 20%, according to our statistics, have been able to visit the colonies. Some colonies are half an hour drive. They've never been able to do that. So we take them. We've taken over 6,000 kids from these developing countries to visit the penguins. These kids tend to stay in those little towns and become, decision makers, or they have influence on the environment.
Terrific.
And of course, some of them, they are 22, 25 years old now. They are part of the administrations of those towns. Some others, they are working or studying like biology, or they have other roles in ecotourism, which is important because I was a tour guide as well.
Oh, I didn't know. You've done everything.
So to pay my studies, I work as a tour guide. And then I realized that you could share this conservation message. And it is so important to communicate and to let people know that this is happening, what they can do to help. You know? So the tour guides are very important because when you visit a country, they are the face of the country. So they are the face of these penguins.
Oh, terrific. And speaking of helping more, how can people reach out to you or help with this cause with the Global Penguin Society?
Amazing. So we have a kind of fresh website. It is globalpenguinsociety.org. We have Instagram. We are in a campaign to increase the number of followers. So please follow us on Instagram. We are on Facebook, Global Penguin Society as well, and Twitter. If you want to write me, my email is simple. It's globalpenguinsociety@gmail.com. I'm a very good email answerer.
Yay! Yeah.
So, yes, and in our website there's information about each species, about what we do, the areas where we work, and also funny things that you can. Penguin.
You froze up a little bit on there, but I think I got everything. So I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, terrific. And I hope we'll do reach out to you, and we may get more questions. This will be recorded and posted on the site, and there may be questions that come up. If you feel like answering, feel free, and on Facebook.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So if I can give a final take-home message.
Yes, I was going to ask you.
General, because sometimes people like penguins, but penguins are very far, and people feel that there's nothing they can do to benefit penguins or wildlife.
Yeah.
And this pandemic is teaching us that everything is connected through the air or through the ocean.
Yeah.
So whatever we do every single day has an impact because we are over 7 billion people on the planet. Pay attention to what we consume in terms of food, in terms of clothes, in terms of everything, in terms of plastics particularly, and also make sure that the origin of those products and also the destination is sustainable. We don't need to drive ourselves crazy. We don't need to be become Buddha.
Overly stressed, yeah.
Exactly. But, every single thing counts.
Yeah.
So we all have a responsibility, and we all have a conservation hero inside that we need to wake up.
That's a good message. I agree. Yeah. And I think, we all need to do that. And this time has actually given us that opportunity to really think our priorities, I think. So, unless you have another message, I feel like, I could talk to you forever, but it's been an hour. But I was going to ask you a final question of what gives you hope?
So, in general, I like to say that conservationists, we tend to be optimistic because we tend to highlight the good things even in the darkness,
Yeah, you have to.
Some people, sometimes people perceive that we like birds and we are, enjoying wildlife and that's all we do, drinking teas. And, to make a protected area, you have to get into the mud. You have to get your dress, go to the Congress. You have to work with the big, powerful sectors like fisheries, oil industries, politicians. It's not a walk in the park.
No.
So, yeah, exactly. So what brings me hope now is that I realize that the new generations, they are more aware and more concerned about the environment compared to my generation. When I was 10 years old, my grandmother was the only one that, but there was no education at school, or it's not like now. So people are educated. And I see young professionals that even if they are in economy or bookkeeping or engineering, they have the environmental DNA.
Yeah.
Some of them, many of them. So they're really concerned about doing something that doesn't harm the environment so much. And then I'm very hopeful for technology and science, because I think there are going to be a lot of tools and new systems and processes to solve the problems that we created, and also to avoid future problems. I'm hopeful for that.
That's great. Well, thank you. Yeah, and Vicky says hello, and Jackie says she loves the new website. So, and I think.
Oh, thank you very much.
I don't see any other questions out there. I'm just gonna look through. So but yeah, I mean, I could, like I said, I could talk to you for a long time, but it's been you have to get on with your day as well. But thank you so much for your time today and for everything you do. I appreciate it. So we all do.
No,
thank you.
Yes, it was a pleasure talking to you,
Yeah.
and thank you so much, because what we say is, when we work in conservation, we work more with people than with penguins. We need to change the behavior of people, and it's thanks to people like you, because you are a channel, and we can reach a lot of people through this channel, through you. So thank you very much for spreading the word and giving us the visibility of what we do. Thank you very much, Marcia.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Poppy. And Titley Baker says, Poppy, you're the best. Thank you for all you do. Yeah.
Love to one.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody. And leave questions afterwards, and we can try to have them answered if you missed the show live. So, gosh. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. And I hope to see you soon, either in Argentina someday or at WCN. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we'll catch up one of these days. So anyways.
Thank you. And I'm posting every day on Penguins on our Instagram and account. So keep track on us.
Awesome.
Us.
We will. Yeah. And I'll share all your stuff. So thank you. And
thank you very much.
Have a wonderful day, and I will end the broadcast. If you want to stay on, you can. And I'll just end. Thank you.